If you want to do professional voiceover or audiobook using Adobe Audition, this tutorial is perfect for you. For the past 5 years, I have helped hundreds of my students become successful in voiceover and audiobook work using the process I demonstrate in this video. This is a beginner-friendly tutorial, and I will explain everything step by step. We will start with how to record a great audio in Adobe Audition. Then we will explore how to enhance that recording, ready for professional use. Then we will also learn advanced tips and tricks in Adobe Audition that shortcut the process of achieving the highest audio quality. Let's start with how to record. There is a red record button here for recording, but there are several pre-recording checks. For example, you have to check which microphone is selected for recording, the current input level for that microphone, and other technical settings such as project rate and sample format. We will go through this one by one. If you get any of these settings wrong, the recording quality will not be good enough. It looks a lot, but it is quite a simple process. The first thing is to select the correct microphone for recording. To check which microphone has been selected for recording, go to Adobe Audition Settings. In Adobe Audition Settings, click on Audio Hardware. The currently selected microphone will be shown in the default input. For me, it is showing Scarlett 2i2 USB. If you do not see the correct microphone selected as the default input, please select it from the drop-down. You also need to know what name your microphone appears under on the list. For example, I have a Sennheiser microphone connected to my computer through the Scarlett 2i2 USB audio interface. Selecting the audio interface means selecting the microphone attached to it. For you, the microphone may be connected through a USB cable, or you may be using a different audio interface or mixer. Whatever it is, make sure the correct name is selected as the default input. It is a very common mistake to record with the wrong microphone. Recording with the wrong microphone will lead to poor audio quality, and you have to record again. Always remember to check the microphone before recording, because it is related to system settings, and if the microphone is disconnected from your computer somehow, this selection will change automatically. To be safe, always check audio hardware before recording. If you do not see your microphone on the list, ensure it is connected to your computer and then restart Adobe Audition. I will keep all other settings as they are and move to the next configuration. Once you have checked the microphone selection, check the input level. There is a meter at the bottom in Adobe Audition. You have to learn how to interpret this meter. Your audio editing skill depends on how well you can interpret this meter. If you are looking to have top-notch skill in audio editing using Adobe Audition, you can look at this Adobe Audition course. I have shown every detail of how to get high-quality audio from Adobe Audition. You will learn audio editing and processing step by step without any confusion. You will also learn better workflow using Adobe Audition and the use of third-party plugins. Third-party plugins sometimes become necessary to get top-quality audio. With this course, you will know which one to use and when. You will find all the links in the description and pinned comment. Let's get back to our learning of Adobe Audition meters. Notice all the numbers in this meter are negative, and the highest value is 0. The louder the audio is, the closer it will be to 0. Double-clicking inside the meter area will show its current level. Of course, you will see this level while you record, but you can check it before recording to make sure everything is okay. While you talk, the meter levels should be between -18 and -6 decibels. Being in that range means you are getting good enough audio data without distortion or clipping. They also show some levels in yellow and red. Yellow levels mean you should be cautious as you are quite close to clipping. The maximum reading on this meter is 0 decibels. If you record beyond 0 decibels, your audio will sound clipped and distorted. Oftentimes, those audio are not recoverable, resulting in poor audio. If you can stay within the range of -18 to -6 decibels, you will have enough headroom for post-processing and will get high-quality audio after processing. To achieve proper levels in the meter, you have to talk from the proper distance, usually 4 to 6 inches from the microphone. You also have to adjust the gain in your audio interface or microphone to hit the desired level in the meter. Once the microphone has been set and the levels are okay, you are ready to record your session. You can either open a new audio file from the File menu at the top, or you can hit the red record button. Once you hit the record button, you can set some configurations for the audio file. The first configuration is the file name. You can set a file name if you wish, or you can do it during export. I will do it during export, keeping the file name as it is. After the file name, you see the sample rate, For voice recording, the sample rate should be 44.1 kHz, and that is also the default value. There is no good reason to change it for voice recording, but many people change it due to wrong information or misinformation. We are dealing with voice recording, and there is no good reason to choose a sample rate other than 44.1 kHz. A lower sample rate will degrade recording quality, while a higher sample rate won't make any difference for our use case. Instead, a higher sample rate will take up lots of hard disk space. So the bottom line is to record in 44.1 kHz, and that would be good for audiobooks, podcasts, and voiceover. The next field is the recording channel. You should record in mono. For voice recording, you don't need stereo recording. Recording a voiceover in stereo can lead to some complexity. For example, you may get audio only on one side of the headphones if it's not set up properly. To keep things simple, always record in mono. If you need to convert it to a stereo audio, you can easily do it after recording. Then comes the bit depth. The bit depth should be 32-bit float. Once again, many people change it without understanding what they are doing. There is a lot of misinformation out there, and people modify it without understanding the consequences of their actions. A 32-bit float is the safest option for recording your voice. In summary, you do not need to change the default configurations for these fields. However, many people are misinformed about these settings, so I discussed them in some detail. I will now click OK, and the waveform of the recording will appear. You can see the waveform generated as the recording progresses, and you can see the levels in the meter. Another important skill in audio editing is interpreting waveforms. We will learn more about that as we progress through this tutorial. Editing the waveform and interpreting the level meter are core concepts for improving audio editing skills. The main building block of audio editing is effects, and to configure any effect properly, you have to learn to read the waveform and the level meter. When you are done recording, click the stop button or press the space bar. The recording has been completed, and we can see the waveform on the screen. So what should be the next step? Well, we have recorded the audio, but have not saved it yet. It is still only inside Adobe Audition, and if we close Adobe Audition, it will be gone. We have to save this audio. However, the original recording always needs some cleanup and enhancement. We can do that now, and then save the audio file. Or, to be safe, we can first save this raw recording. It is always a good idea to save the original recording. There are two options to save the audio just after recording, using the Save or Export option in the File menu. There are actually some differences between save and export. Export means creating a new copy of the audio file in its current condition inside Adobe Audition. Save means saving the current copy of the audio file, or creating a new file if no such audio copy exists yet. You will understand those once you practice with save and export. However, just after recording, it is okay to use save. Because I haven't saved any audio file yet, so I will use the save option. You will get a pop-up window with different configuration options. For example, you can set the name of the file to save and the location you want to save it. I will save it inside the Audition Samples folder on the desktop. You are free to choose your location. I will give the file a name, Recording Test. I will save it as a WAV file. It is always a good idea to save the raw recording or original recording as WAV. Because the WAV format is a lossless format, your audio data will be as it is. I will keep the other options as it is, and click OK. The file is now saved, and we can check from the location. I will browse to the Audition Samples folder where I saved the file. You can see the Recording Test WAV file here. I can open this file in Adobe Audition at any later time and do the editing or processing. I hope you now have a good idea of the overall recording and saving your voice. The next step would be to process this recording so that we can get high-quality audio. I will just tell you in a moment where to look for that tutorial. If you want to learn audio editing well for voiceover, audiobook narration, podcasts, or content creation using Adobe Audition, I have an Adobe Audition Bundle for you. The Adobe Audition Bundle has a beginner to advanced course and some pre-built presets to make your sound better in one click. You will learn both beginner and advanced tricks of using Adobe Audition from the course. Your audio can be processed with just a click using the pre-built presets. The bundle is available on my shop and my Patreon page. I will give the links in the description for you to check them out. I hope you get a clear idea of how to record your voice. Recording your audio isn't the end of story. You also need to process it for higher quality audio. After you record audio, it doesn't always sound perfect right out of the mic. It might be too quiet, too noisy, or just not ready for use in a professional project or for uploading online. That's why you need to do some audio processing. And to process audio in Audition, you'll use the Effects menu. Inside the Effects menu, you'll find two main types of effects: built-in effects that come with Adobe Audition, third-party effects that you can install separately. We'll focus on built-in effects for now. I'll talk about third-party effects later. Each effect does a particular thing to your audio. You have to understand what kind of effect your audio needs. There are some rules for understanding which effects are needed, which we will see as we progress. Let's try to understand how the effect works. The built-in effects are neatly organized into categories based on what they do. For example, there's a category called amplitude and compression. This includes all the tools that control the volume and loudness of your audio. When you need to adjust the volume or loudness of your audio, you will use an effect from here. Each effect has its own settings, and you have to configure them based on your audio. We'll go through the most essential ones. There are also effects for fixing audio issues, like noise reduction. If your recording has background noise, you'll find helpful tools under the noise reduction/restoration section. When learning how to use effects in Audition, you should always follow this three-step process. Identify the problem in your recording. For example, is it too quiet or too loud, or is it noise? Proper identification of the problem is the first step. Usually, you will have more than one issue with the audio, but there is a fix for that. After identifying the problem, choose the right effect for that problem. And finally, configure the effect properly based on your recording. Proper configuration of the effects is tricky, as some effects can be used with the same settings every time, but others need to be adjusted for each recording. We'll learn both types as we go. Let's start with the normalize effect. The normalize effect is found under Effects, Amplitude, and Compression. You can see a normalize process effect here. When you click on it, a settings window will pop up. There are two ways to normalize audio: by setting a percentage or by choosing a specific dB value. You have to click on the radio button to choose which method you want to use. I do not recommend the percentage settings as they are complex to understand. Use the specific dB value, as that is concrete, and you will know exactly what you are getting. So, what does a dB value mean here? You can set the normalization level to something like -3 decibels or -1 decibel. These are negative numbers, because 0 decibels is the maximum level your audio can reach without distortion. Going over 0 can cause clipping, which you want to avoid. Now look at the waveform in your Audition timeline. On the right side, you'll see a decibel scale. The height of the waveform gives you an idea of how loud the audio is. For example, this audio isn't going beyond -12 decibels at any point. You have to pay attention to both the top half and the bottom half of this scale. The maximum point of the audio is called the peak amplitude. Through the normalize effect, we set the peak amplitude of a recording.
With a lifetime guarantee against breakage to back it up. Wait, cutting.
When you normalize, the peak of the waveform gets adjusted to your chosen target. So if you normalize to -3 decibels, the loudest point in the waveform will now reach exactly -3 decibels. The rest of the audio will scale up proportionally, making the overall volume louder. You can also find shortcuts for normalization in the Favorites menu. There are two shortcuts here: normalize to -3 decibels and normalize to -0.1 decibels. Normalize to -3 decibels is standard practice. When we need to do it, we can do it from the Favorites menu. All the items you see in the Favorites menu are shortcuts to specific audio effects. Let's say you click on normalize to -3 decibels from Favorites. The waveform will grow in size, and the loudest part will now touch the -3 decibels mark, either on the top half, bottom half, or both. This is perfectly normal. For example, on this audio it has touched -3 decibels at the bottom half. If we play that part of the audio, we can also be sure it is touching -3 decibels in the meter. If you play the audio after normalizing, you'll hear that the volume has increased compared to before.
With a lifetime guarantee against breakage to back it up. Weight, cutting surface, and speed set us apart.
You see, the audio has increased in volume. If I recap what has happened here, you will see the difference. Before normalize, the waveform was smaller in height. I will undo it from Command Z. This was the waveform before normalize. I will now redo with Command Shift Z. This is the waveform after normalize. The waveform grew in size because the peak amplitude of the waveform was less than the peak amplitude I set with normalize. It is not the case that the waveform will always increase in height. Let's see another example to understand it better. Let's open a different audio file where the waveform is already touching 0 decibels. I have opened another recording where the peak amplitude is touching 0 decibels. There is another way to check the peak amplitude of a recording. You can confirm this by using the Amplitude Statistics panel. Go to Window, Amplitude Statistics. You can see a new panel has been opened here. This is the Amplitude Statistics panel. Click Scan, and it will tell you the peak amplitude of your audio. It shows 0 decibels as the peak amplitude. If you now normalize this audio to -3 decibels, the entire waveform will shrink so that the highest point becomes -3 decibels. Again, if you scan it using Amplitude Statistics after normalizing, you'll see that the peak is now exactly -3 decibels. So normalize adjusts the peak level of your audio to a value you choose. If the peak was lower before normalize, it increases it. If the peak is higher before normalize, it decreases it. This effect doesn't distort your audio. It simply raises or lowers the overall volume based on the peak level you set. A few more important notes about normalize. Normalize is safe to use multiple times. You can apply it again and again, and it won't degrade the audio quality. If you use the same normalize setting, like -3 decibels, on a file that's already at -3 decibels, nothing will change. If you use a different value, the waveform will adjust again accordingly. Normalize only adjusts volume. It doesn't fix noise, echo, or clarity. But it's a critical step in controlling loudness before using other effects. So that's how the normalize effect works. It's not the only tool for controlling volume, but it's a great starting point. You'll often combine it with other tools, like compressors or limiters, to get the best results. We'll explore more effects and techniques as we continue. If you want to learn audio editing step-by-step for voiceover, audiobook narration, podcasts, or content creation using Adobe Audition, I have an Adobe Audition Bundle for you. The Adobe Audition Bundle has a beginner to advanced course and 5 pre-built presets to make your sound better in one click. You will also get a custom EQ and preset that perfectly match your voice. Every voice, microphone, and recording setup is different. To enhance your voice the most, you need a custom EQ that matches your voice. You will get that in the Adobe Audition Bundle. You will learn both beginner and advanced tricks of using Adobe Audition from the course. Your audio can be processed with just a click using the pre-built presets. The bundle is available on my shop and my Patreon page at a heavily discounted price. I will give the links in the description for you to check them out.